right, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I'm going to discuss with you the importance of note taking. Okay. Now, yesterday I did a video on grimoires, journals, and black books, and I explained the differences between the two, or I should say the three, rather. Today, I really want to touch base on the gnosis of actual note taking. Okay, and the reasons why so many practitioners that are successful in their careers as practitioners of the arts succeed so much is because they take the time to do note taking. Okay, it does not matter the path working that you're on. It does not matter about your journey. Okay, it doesn't even matter what you jot down. It's how you jot it down and what interests you. Okay, now recently, as of last night, I started studying the Satanic Bible 999 by Reverend Caesar 999. Okay, now he runs the Vampiric Order. Okay, the Satan's Vampiric Order, and has been doing so for a while. Now, I happen to be a member in a few of his groups. I just applied for a couple others that I didn't know previously that he was a part of, or had up and running, I should say. So I ended up joining their groups, his groups on Facebook. Now, in his book, his idealism of what Satanism is very grandiose. Okay, very eccentric, very outspoken. Okay, think of Joy of Satan, but yet more controversy of viewing that of the atheistic, agnostic, traditional, and theistic all in one setting. Okay, basically that's what it is, and I kind of like his book a little bit. I like the fact that he's really putting down the Church of Satan because of the fact that they have become slaves. They've been entrapped in their own stupidity and they don't even see it. But the note taking, I was sitting there last night, early this morning, doing notes from his book because I've read it numerous times, at least a half a dozen times, if not more. Okay. And I never really broke it down and set things like a grimoire or a journal setting with this book. So I started writing it down, things that caught my attention, like the vampire creed. Okay, where you can find it, the vampiric Bible. Okay, the vampire Bible. Okay, and so I actually inquired about where to get my hands on this Bible because of the fact that I'm not a member of his order yet. So I wanted to inquire about how to get my hands on it so I could start studying the Vampire Creed because that really interested me because of the fact that I've studied the creeds of witchcraft, the five basic foundation principles of to know, to dare, to will, to keep silent, and to go. Okay, otherwise known as fire, water, air, earth, and spirit. Okay, and through their actual names, stuff like that, going into the difference between the witch's oath and that of the seeing the actual formulation of the witch's pyramid, which is basically the same thing. It just goes into a lot more detail. Okay. I've gone into all the satanic creeds from the 11 adversarial doctrines by Michael W. Ford in his adversarial Bible, the 9 satanic statements, the 9 satanic sins, the 11 satanic rules of the earth, and the 21 satanic points from the COS, the Church of Satan, to the 9 satanic sins by or statements, I should say, by Reverend Cesar 999. Okay, I've studied them all, including the Infernal Maxim, from a traditional satanic point of view, because that's what I practice most is traditional Satanism and necromancy. Okay, witchcraft, black arts, dark magics. Okay, that's what I practice most. So seeing these creeds and these oaths really inspire, but they also interest me and intrigue me. So I really like to study and break them down. So the best way to do that, and I actually, after posting that I was getting back into this book on his Satanic Bible 2012 group, he ended up getting under there and said that he updated it, okay, recently, within the last few years, okay, which I did not know because I've had this book for a while. So to find out that he had updated it was kind of cool. So I'll have to look into that as well. Now, the other thing that Reverend Cesar 999 has said is that the reason he updated his Satanic Bible or Satan's Bible was because of the fact that it made it easier for people to read and to understand. Now, I got to thinking about this while I was talking with Gordon Carnes this morning, and we were discussing how to do a live feed together where we can actually commune and do a video together, side by side on the same video. And although that kind of blew up in our faces because he doesn't know what he did wrong on there, but he doesn't know if it's on his end, and of course I don't know if it's on mine because you know in my case, ignorance literally is bliss because I'm not really too big on technology. I really am not up to date on it. So I'm the kind of guy that really needs the learn how to use computers books for dummies. That just tells you how far behind I am on it. It's like, where's the easy button? So um, I was thinking about this while we were discussing this because of the fact that note taking is very, very interesting because it allows you to create a journal, but it also allows you to create a grimoire at the same time of your own experiences, things that you're studying, the things that you're applying at that time. And when I got on Facebook and got into this group and saw his reply to mine, it's not the fact that they couldn't understand it, it was the fact that they were unwilling to understand. Okay. There's a difference between desiring to understand something and actually seeking out the gnosis on your own or with the aid of someone else, and that of sheer ignorance. Okay. Sheer stupidity. Anybody who wants to learn about a certain creed will do so by seeking out the information. Anyone who really wants to develop their skills as a magician, a sorcerer, will make every opportunity to do so. They will jot down notes, things that catch their eye, things that interest them or pique their interests. Okay. And then they can actually go in at a later date and reorganize everything. Okay. And by taking notes, by note taking, you can actually see and keep track of what you've been studying. For an example, the hierarchy. Okay, from the neophyte to the expert, or say for example the high priest. Okay, in his case it would be the vampire knights, much like the Knights of Templar. Okay, going up that stature, the ranking system, the military ranking system, but for civilians. Okay, And for those who are self-motivated, can actually go up it through self-motivation and dedication to the practices in the arts. All right. Now, what's interesting here is that every system has the same or similar setup. The traditional Satanism, okay, that of this, let's say, for an example, the Cathedral of the Black Goat, okay. Myrmidon Pontifex Maximus wrote Tentatio Diabolis, okay. This is a three-in-one book. It's the Devil's Bible, the Devil's Disciple, and the Devil's Coven. Not only does it set up the actual philosophical aspects of practice, such as annotations, processes over a 3-night span, to dictates, okay, that you can follow, dictates or mandates that you can actually follow, such as the creed of the Masters of Darkness, okay, the El Jawah, okay, books 1 through 5, you know, getting into the actual setup of the hierarchy from the neophyte to the adept to the witches and warlocks to the high priest, to the priesthood to the hierarchy such as the teachers and the guides, the high priest, the magistrate, and stuff like that. Okay, going into the ONA, you see the exact same setup. The Order of the Nine Angles. You go into, say, for an example, paganism, Wicca, Wiccan practices. You're going to see the same setup. Okay, so it's not just in Satanism; it's also in other traditions that you walk as well. You go into other groups such as the African and Caribbean groups, like that of the Cuban, say, brujeria, the bruja type practices. Getting into Quimbanda, Umbanda. Getting into Palo Mayombe, Santeria, you know, um, Santa Morte, La Santa Morte, going into the African traditions such as voodoo, hoodoo, voodoo, okay? Getting into their hierarchy, you go in as a palero, a priest. Once you're initiated in, and you've dedicated yourself, you're automatically a priest. Okay, and you begin working with the Loa, be it LOA or LWA, depending on which region of the world you're in. Okay, so here taking notes allows you to copy what other individuals have done to keep track of what they've done. And like I spoke in yesterday's video on grimoires, grimoires are just copies of a black book. Okay, the main black book of an order, a temple, a church. Okay, and it's just copies on copies on copies, and that's what through the Inquisition and all kinds of other historical accounts have proven them to be. Okay, through the trials and everything. Now, a journal, on the other hand, is just another form of note taking. And if you look at journaling and doing your personal experiences, your personal thoughts, okay, what you're feeling at that particular time, that really works in that case, okay? But look at it also as a form of note taking. A form of note taking allows you to keep track of what you're studying. If you see something that piques your interest, you could put a question mark, okay? Like, say, every book that's out there nowadays has references to other books, other sources that the author or the practitioner who wrote the book has studied and where they've gotten their resources. Okay. Now, for an example, I've studied everything from Anton Zandelavay. Okay. The man's was a genius. He was one of those practitioners of Satanism that understood how to play the game on a physical level. Okay, not just physical but verbal. He could literally hold his own. Now, in The Secret Life of a Satanist, he actually referenced several books, one of which was a book on hypnosis. So I ended up going out and I took a notes of that while I was studying it because I wanted to remember these books, these references. Did these things make him who he was? Or was it in his nature to go out and study new things and to apply the applications thereof? Okay. This is what I wanted to know. So I took notes. I wrote down the books, the references, the time frame of how old he was, where he was at the time in his life and his career as a Satanist. And when he opened up the doors to the Church of Satan, it literally was devil worship at the time. It wasn't until later on they started shifting to the agnostic point of views, and then finally to where they are today, which is the atheistic, okay, the dualistic nature of playing the bad guy badge, the devil to the church mandate, okay, monkey see, monkey do, so to speak. Now, but you see, by taking notes, you're actually viewing where you can go into other sources, other resources, other references, and so forth to get to where everybody is coming from. Okay. Now, the thing I like about traditional Satanism is it's a path of individuality and it's a path of challenges. Okay. To challenge yourself is to always do good. Now, I once came across a reference that if you can't write down 3 pages daily in your journal, write down, I don't know what to say, over and over again for 3 pages until the day that you run out of things to say and you start writing about your life. Okay. Perhaps this is how other practitioners did in the old days. This is how all these old grimoires popped up. Okay. And I want to say hello, Elena L. Thank you for who says, Michael, thank you for your time. You're welcome. I try to teach and educate. Um, okay, if I knew how to use that iPad, I would turn that thing off because it's my son's mother. Her iPad is making that dinging sound. I think it's the alarm clock. Not really sure, but it's out in the next room, just going ding 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 ding. It's funny. But anyways, my point is this: make sure to take time to jot down ideas. Okay, things that pique your interest within your practice, your art, your day-to-day life. Because once you start doing this, you're going to go back sometime down in the future and you're going to realize that you've been setting up a grimoire, you've been setting up a journal. And by doing this, you're seeing how your career got started, got peaked within that particular field because the more you jot down, the more you reference, the note takings, you're kind of making these little side glyphs. Now, Sorceress Cagliostro, the necromancer, in her Blood Sorcery Bible, Volume 1 and 2, is renowned for doing this. She'll be sitting there writing a chapter, and all of a sudden, you got this little box. Okay? Literally, a little box that kind of quotes something. Okay? I really like that because it's like, wait, wasn't I just reading this? But then she kind of puts her own little spin on it and says, well, this is what I believe. This is where I got this from. You go into certain books and categorizations, and all of a sudden it quotes something from somebody else. Like a lot of today's practitioners are known for quoting Crowley. Okay. Thelema Zapier Dietis, the, you know, Turksuzij, the demonic Bible. Okay. The Embassy of Lucifer founder. Okay. He really quotes the Thelema system and he promotes it because for him it works. Okay. But to quote something from the Christian Bible, what works for you will not work for me, and what works for me will not work for you. Okay, that's why Satanism is misunderstood and feared because it's not like other organizations. It's not like the JCI. It is not like the pagans or the Wiccans. Okay, it's not like these other foundations where you have the herd conformity. Okay, we don't have covens. We do have some covens, groups of people that come together who are like-minded. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, but you bring something to the table. You bring forth your own ideas, your own ideals. You bring forth your own experiences, and it's allowed to be shown. It's not a dictatorship where everything's handed to you, and you're found out that if you have your own thoughts, you're considered labeled as a warlock, an oathbreaker, and a betrayer because you choose to seek out other information to try to back up what these cults try to teach you. Okay, they try to force it down your throat, like the JCI or the governments. Okay, which is basically the government's got it from the JCI to begin with. This is why the JCI dominated so much. They enforced what they were preaching. They had sheer numbers. Satanism does not have numbers. It is not about the herd conformity. It is about the enlightenment in the evolution of the individual. Okay? Where you take your practice is where you take it. It's where your resources, where your note taking, where your grimoires and your personal ideals and endealment with the divinity, the divine sparks, those of the Djinn, the Loa, the Ugan, okay, the Djinn, the demons, the angels, whatever you serve for beings, where they lead you, where you lead yourself, that is what matters. It is about your practice. It is about your evolution. Okay. So when you do notes, make sure to reference where you're getting these notes from. Okay. And remember that we do live in a time where people like to label things. Okay. Plagiarism, for an example, or say, for an example, oath taking to a coven base. Because when you join a coven, it's no longer about the individual, it becomes about the protection of that coven. Okay. Now, I just noticed the guy, a good friend of mine, Gordon. Satanism is a path and/or practice is about breaking away from the mundane or herdist conformity. That is exactly correct. It's not about a group. It's about you as the individual, as I just stated. So when we look at this, note taking can lead you into so many different areas. Okay. And when you get enough notes, you can actually type them up. And before you know it, you actually can write a book upon your own personal, spiritual, or physical experiences. Okay. Now, a few years ago, I wrote a book called Satanism, the Philosophy. And I quoted from various different sources, such as the JCI, Michael W. Ford, the COS, okay, the BOS, Brotherhood of Satan, okay. And I shared their views within this book, showing the different idealism, the different thoughts of the creeds, okay, the statements. So you don't, because so many people like to put themselves into a category, a division. So by showing the differences, but also the similarities, the commonalities that every order, every foundation, every subdivision has. The question is, why are you labeling yourself? Why are you putting yourself into a minority? Okay. Why are you putting yourself into a division? That's like going back to World War II and putting yourself into an internment camp. Okay. Because that's basically what you're doing. Okay. A sorcerer is somebody who, or sorceress is someone who wants to learn magic, not to better themselves, to better their lives. Okay. To keep that knowledge alive. Okay, it's about power. Alistair Notch wrote about this in his books, okay? And one of which is The Inner Sanctum, Volume 1, okay? The Sanctum of Shadows, Volume 1. And he said, we live in a time where the pen is mightier than the sword because it can create or condemn, okay? Now look at it this way. A sword can kill. That's what it was created for, just like a dagger, anathema. But a pen can create. It's a form of artistry. It can create, build somebody up. History has shown this time and time again, from Julius Caesar to Alexander the Great, Napoleon, even Hitler. Go all the way back, you see Joan of Arc, the Maid of Lorraine, okay? They saw her as a heretic, okay? A witch, and they condemned her for witchcraft. But history has shown that she was a servant. She was a leader, an inspiration, okay? So a pen is mightier than the sword, just like history has shown. You can create or you can condemn with it. Exactly, Gordon. Exactly. And this is one of the reasons why I am considered the bad guy from the church. Churches and Christians flee from me because I stand my ground. They have literally told me to my face, I have never met anyone like you. This is because I live my life by two simple rules. Whatever I preach, I always back it up with references. Okay? And number two, I always make myself available to the public. Because as a minister, as an ordained minister, a clergy within the Order of the Black Thorn, I answer to the people. Okay? Me. I lead by example, yes. But everything I speak on, I am held accountable for. It's a path of responsibility. And not many people want to take responsibility for their actions. So when we take notes, when we take and build a book such as a grimoire, a journal, and we apply everything together, we're seeing a pattern of where this knowledge is coming from. But we also realize it's your personal journey. I can lead the old expression, the old proverb, you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make them drink. Okay? It's like putting a plate down in front of a child. I can give you that bread, I can give you that meal, but I can't make you eat I cannot make you eat it. Only you can decide whether to eat it, where you want to take your practice. Okay? So taking notes is a very, very good thing. Number one, it keeps you up to date on the times. It shows you mythology. It shows you historical accounts. It shows you the different practices, the formulations of traditions, styles, okay, of practice from every region of the world. And and then it also goes into the idealism of legal rights. Okay. Now, I was in a discussion about this just last night with an individual in a group that I'm in. And it says, and basically the way he put it was, I ended up putting the United States constitutional rights of what is considered to be a protected religion. Okay. This is the legal rights of the individual. Okay. Now, the First Amendment deals with freedom of religion. It establishes the separation of church and state. Okay. But then it goes into what is a religion and how is it considered to be recognized as such. Okay. And this is brought down into number one, followers. Number two, doctrine. Okay. A Bible, a satanic Bible, a Wiccan Bible. Okay. A witch's Bible, the Christian Bible. Okay. This is considered doctrine. Okay. And then you have the foundation. Okay. A foundation is something that allows you to set up shop. Okay. Like the Temple of Iwis, the Order of the Black Thorn. Okay. These are just two foundations that is recognized by a government as a protected religion. Okay. Just as an example, Gordon, I know the Temple of Iwis is your little baby. Okay. Um, Gordon is actually the founder and owner of the Temple of Iwis, okay, which is based off Crowley's work, but it's also based off Hermetics. He's done a lot of great things with that order, okay, and I do recommend that you check it out. All right. Now, as for my order, the Order of the Black Thorn, I've based it solely off the arts and practices of the world's traditions, backing it up with facts, sources, okay? Not just past stuff, but also more modern stuff, okay? PDFs and stuff like that. But I've also shown my own work, my own videos, my own um, experiences, research wise, and I give the references to them. All right. And a lot of people like it because it gives them a sense of belonging, but it also gives them something to work towards. Okay. This is what an order in a temple does, but it does it of your own independent stature. Okay. And that's exactly what a minister does. This is something that an elder does. They teach you, they guide you, they show you what you can do, that it's okay to step outside your comfort zone, that it's okay to take notes and to study other areas. Just because you belong to a coven does not mean that you have to stay true or loyal to that coven's teachings. Because if you don't question, you may be led like the children of, say, for an example, what's his name there, Gordon? The one from the COS, the one that went on that killing spree and spent his life in prison. He had his own family. Manson. There we go. Charles Manson. Okay. Prime example. His followers did not question this man. Okay. And because they did not question him, his motives, they became part of a cult. And a lot of people see a cult as being the same thing as the occult. So if you don't question and you don't do your own research, you're not going to know the difference. Note taking is a prime example in this. You get to see the different sources. Down the road, you can take all your notes, cross reference everything, and put them in order. Okay? That way, you can actually have one setting, titles of books that you can go to. On the other hand, you can see the authors, the links, the references of where your career has led you to be, what you've studied. All right. Note taking is very good, ladies and gentlemen. I highly recommend that you do it. In fact, I encourage you to do it. Okay. Because it will benefit you in the long run, especially if you want to get into grimoires, if you want to create a black book. Okay. Yeah, I concur with that. Therefore, there are two rules that I recommend that you follow. One, always back up what you preach and always make yourself available to the public. Okay? Because in my own personal experiences, even though I've done a lot of note taking, I've done a lot of grimoires that I've made and created on my own, I can tell you this. I still get questions from people worldwide, worldwide. And they're not just from occultist or left hand path practitioners. Okay. They're also from the right hand path. They're also Christians. I had a conversation just last week at work with a member of the Jewish community. It was a very civil conversation. The guy asked me, "How did you get all this knowledge? And how do you retain it?" And I told him, I said, "It's because I've worked with certain deities. Hugh Mott will bring you anything you need. Hugh Mott is also known as Hugh Met. He's the infernal librarian. Okay? There are certain beings that you can contact to help with memory. Okay? Idyllic memory. Okay? Even saying stuff or writing stuff, kind of like you would back in high school where you had to write the alphabet over and over again, writing sentences over and over again, helps you to retain that knowledge. When you constantly play it in your head, you build a vault. You build that knowledge, and it helps you remember and obtain that knowledge. Taking a grimoire, making notes, doing a journal is a way that you can mark that journal, that grimoire, and have it specifically for, say, herbalism. Have another one specifically for rituals. Have another one for your thoughts and feelings on them. So you can put the journal with the grimoire. Okay? And at a later date, you can actually combine the two when you have enough information. Okay? Don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to step outside your comfort zone. Don't be afraid to question. Don't be afraid to take those notes and look at different references. Because in the long run, it's not the world that benefits. It's you as the practitioner. It's you as the individual. Okay? Because you've seen with the image of the phoenix, it burns itself alive and burns itself to embers. But then it turns around and rises from its own ashes. The birth and rebirth, the death aspects. Think of the tower card. Before you can create, you have to destroy. All right? So look into that. All right? That's been this video. Until next time, I'm Angelus, son of Abaddon. Have a good one.